You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Hey, Rose, you want to feel old?
Any more than I do? Let's hear it.
Sidney Crosby, he's 38 years old today. He is no longer a kid. It's official.
Sid the Kid's getting up there, and I don't know if you thought we forgot, but it is your birthday today, is it not?
It is.
Happy
Number 36
birthday.
For yours truly. Yeah,
You're 36, so you're 2 years behind Sid the Kid.
Yeah.
Holy. Do your parents ever call and ask, like, what you're doing with your life, and if you're ever going to give them a grandchild or any of that business?
I got a text today from my mother. That's usually reserved for Sunday dinner. I'll get that once once a sitting. Do you have a girlfriend? Other questions around that I can't repeat on this podcast, but the answer is no. We're not any closer than we were yesterday. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, Crosby's 38. I also share a birthday with Mike Trout. It's kind of weird how two absolute goats of their respective sports, same birthday, and I guess you can include DeMar DeRozan in that conversation as well. But how are things up at the cabin, Rosie?
Holy moly. They're all right, man. I'm on pins and needles for when I got to just leave immediately and go get this stupid surgery that's hanging over my head. But other than that, no complaints. Quality family time, man. And yeah, I had a big birthday and you're rolling by and no one's getting any younger, are they?
Yeah, we're not. The good thing is we're getting closer to puck drop, which, quite frankly, all I care about on this podcast. 62 days away. Our Super Chat charity partner this season is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. Once again, that's Jay Rosehill. I'm Nick Alberga. This is the latest summer edition of Leafs Morning Take presented by Bet365. Want to tip our chat post today to Kyle Clifford, Rosie, retiring and has accepted a role in player development with the Toronto Maple Leafs. 2 Stanley Cups, 750 NHL games, played 47 of them with the Maple Leafs, spent the past 3 seasons on the Toronto Marlies, and, of course, an Ontario native. We love to see that.
Yeah, dude. A lengthy career, did a tough role. I fought him, actually, in Toronto when he was with LA, I believe. All I remember is he threw really hard, and I'm like, why are you throwing that hard, dude? But kind of surprised me. Tough guy, played different teams, but for a long time as well. One of those guys that just kept finding jobs and kept creating value to teams. So congratulations to him on an awesome career. Guys like that, they don't seem to be around a whole lot anymore. And when they go out, you tip your cap to them, as you say. So congrats to him for sure.
I hate to associate Cliff with this, but for me, he's like one of the leaders in the conversations when you talk about Kyle Dubas acquiring former Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. Like, that's all I think about. I remember Kyle Clifford had been linked to Toronto for years, especially when Kyle Dubas took over. Then he was acquired not once, but twice. But hats off. I mean, he was an absolute stud back on those LA Kings teams. And it's amazing how much and how quickly time flies back to that era of like 2010 to 2015. LA and Chicago, just, year after year, those two teams are just the ones that would win every year, it seemed. There it is.
Yeah, they were juggernauts, all right. Oh, see, he's throwing way too hard, man. I'm like, settle down, geez, man. We're gonna get hurt here. Oh yeah, geez, I haven't seen that one in a long time. Yeah, man. Like you say, those teams were big. Going into Chicago was no easy task. Going into LA was no easy task. And guys like him and all the way through the lineup, they had toughness. And again, I don't know, after 2014, 2015, the league really let off the gas with this kind of stuff. And just everyone kind of collectively, it's a bit of a chain reaction to get rid of these guys. And I was one of them, 100% fell victim to that. But guys like Clifford found ways to stay in the league and obviously were probably more skilled than me and understood the game a little better than me and kept finding jobs and playing to this day and age where, time will catch up with you, no doubt. But again, I keep saying it on this show. I think that those type of teams that played heavy and had layers of guys willing to do kind of everything throughout the season, I think they're making a comeback.
Fair enough. And I think a lot of people in this chat discussing the last couple days what your EA Sports rating was. I think Big Willie Styles found it. It was 66.
Out of a hundo?
Yeah.
I'll take these. I'll take that.
Dude,
Just
I
get it
remember,
right on my stick back door. I could tap it in. I guess that's what that means.
exactly. You're probably like top 6, at least in the AHL at some point in time in that game. But I still remember like growing up when I was like 18 or 19, had a couple buddies that played in the A, and we'd go right away to like the A sports game to see what they're ranked. They'd be like 52, 53. Still unreal that you're in a video game. Like, it does not matter, I think.
Well, my first year pro in the American League, you could go use the American
Yeah.
Hockey League teams for the first year.
Yeah.
So of course I go down into like, excuse me, the Springfield Falcons, and they take your headshot and just like unfold it and then wrap it around the little 3D figurine. So it actually looked like you and stuff with your headshot. So it was pretty exciting for a 20-year-old kid to be able to do that. And obviously they're still pumping those games out, so it's neat.
Yep. Speaking of exciting, so NHL 26 coming out, I believe, in mid-September. The cover this year, 3 different Kachucks: Brady, Matthew, and Keith. And I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but they put out the official promo. And yes, they had to include Mitch Marner in a Vegas Golden Knights jersey, scoring backhand shelf on the Maple Leafs. Clearly, it wasn't the playoffs, and like I don't remember the last time the guy scored a background or a backhand goal. So I don't know how realistic it is. But what'd you make of that? Nice little troll job by the A team there.
Yeah, I saw that. And then the first comment, which I laughed at, was must have been a regular season game. But the story continues. I think that kind of shows that the rest of the league gets wrapped up with the Leafs drama as we get to break down every day. But it's widespread sometimes when you're talking about a team like that and a player like that. So I had a good chuckle about that too, though.
By the way, haven't told you this, but coming up on Tuesday, somebody who was on that cover with his dad and his brother guesting on this podcast, Ottawa Senators captain Brady Tkachuk's going to stop by on Tuesday.
Nikolai pulling the big fish. I like it, man. Pull up the clips of me saying I would build a team around that guy.
Yeah.
Because I'm a fan of his, and he is a solid player. And again, plays the right way, and I think he's a guy that you can win with. So be fun to pick his brain a little bit. Yeah, love him or hate him, those Tkachuk boys are pretty good at hockey, and I doubt many people out there would not take them on their team.
At the Leafs Nation 401 here on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. So here we go again. We're 62 days away from puck drop, October 8th, the Leafs home to the Montreal Canadiens. And they're still attached to Jack Roslovic, the biggest free agent name available on the board. That tells me their level of comfort, I don't want to call it uneasy, but they feel like they could upgrade what they have on the wing, we'll say in the top 6, specifically with Matthews and Nyes. Would you agree with that assessment?
I think so, man. I mean, former first-round stud. He's in his prime years as a 28-year-old guy. Right-handed shot, consummate half a point per game guy for a large sample size of 500-plus games. I think that he could do some damage playing with those players. I think that, we've talked about some of the guys and some of the lineup possibilities and some of the line combo possibilities. And you look at it and it's like, yeah, it's kind of there, but there's always been this semblance since, the week of some of these signings that I don't think they're done, or there's kind of one piece that would kind of shovel things in place. And a guy like him, you pop him there, it slides some people down, and it's just like click, click, click. And all of a sudden you got this potentially studly lineup that I think's checking a lot of boxes for a lot of the fans that have been begging for, a little different look to the lineup. And yeah, I can see why they're still in on him. They mentioned he's the best player still available in free agency, and it's interesting to see where that goes. Again, I don't like to put too much stock into rumors, but I can see why they're still sniffing around, trying to move some money around, seeing if they can make themselves better.
By the way, I neglected to mention the feature presentation on today's podcast. We're about 5 minutes away from Nicolas Wa dropping by the show, so stay tuned for that. On Roslovic, the quote came out from Elliot Friedman the other day. The Leafs are still in the mix, saying, I've heard there's still a few teams looking at him. He's the best available player remaining, and obviously he hasn't found anything he 100% likes, but there's definitely a few teams poking around there. I've heard 5 or 6, so he has to get something he's comfortable with. And we know with Toronto, they're trying to move money around, to your point, Rosie. And it's just weird to discuss a fit right now when they have like 15 forwards on their roster. Like, what's the exodus look like if you bring in a Jack Roslovic? And you're definitely not trading from a position of strength when everybody knows you have to flee bodies. And that's, I think, the game right now when it comes to Brad Treliving. It's like you want to bring in Roslovic, but you bring him in, you got like 4 guys that you got to jettison out. And how do you make a trade when every GM knows that, right?
Yeah, it becomes difficult getting under the cap and figuring out where these guys need to go. It's a little bit easier to sign a free agent, obviously, than to force a trade, as it's kind of a one-team thing. But yeah, I think that's the difficult thing, and I think that's what Treliving has been trying to do. And yeah, I think that's why everyone's just standing around saying, I don't think the Leafs are done moving bodies around or making announcements, because they do need to move some things around. So I don't know. We'll continue to watch in these dog days of the summertime and see if anything interesting happens here in the next week or two.
He made $2.8 million last year, coming off a 22-goal campaign with the Carolina Hurricanes. And obviously, if you bring in a Roslovic, he shoots right, which we talked about a lot the last couple of weeks. But the obvious fit would be with Nyes and Matthews on that top line. By the way, he played with Matthews a bit in the U.S. development program way back when. But, I mean, I'll be curious to see what the lines look like, at the start of camp to the end of camp, into the first game, into mid-season. But I think that the Nyes-Matthews combo is probably here to stay. Is it going to be Nylander? Is it going to be someone else? Is it going to be Roslovic? Like that's my curiosity from a Roslovic standpoint. You bring him in and it doesn't work on that top line. Where does he fit? I mean, is it going to be a second line? I don't know if it's going to be the third line. I just wonder about that fit if it's not with what you expect, right?
Yeah, and I mean, Matias Maccelli's coming in here. We haven't seen him and who he's gelling with and what he looks like in a Maple Leafs uniform. Does he go down and play with Nylander? Where does that put Max Domi? All of a sudden, this third line looks like you've got your pick of a bunch of the different guys who could make that a monster line, and you probably bump a guy down to the fourth line to play with like Lawton and maybe somebody else, Bobby McMahon. I don't know. And you could have a monster line there. Like, again, I think I say they're one puzzle piece away from kind of knocking everyone down, where it's like, whoa, all of a sudden that's a heavy third line, a heavy fourth line, and you kind of shape up what it looks like. And again, you need that chemistry with a Nyes and a Matthews. You need someone to get Matthews the puck. I know Maccelli's good at doing that. Roslovic could slide in there. Who plays with who? I don't know. That's going to be what's interesting about camp and preseason and the beginning of the year. And if they do make another addition, that'll just kind of heighten the awareness of what they can do with this lineup. And I think it's kind of exciting, to be honest.
Do you like the idea of stacking the top line? Like, would you be opposed to doing Nyes, Matthews, and Nylander as a trio?
A little bit. I think I like the way Willie plays with Johnny T, and if you can get someone to complement them, it just, I don't know, having a really deadly line, it just feels like there's, how like our power play sometimes gets a little bit, there's that much skill there, and everyone's kind of, there's a lot to be said for chemistry and people who complement each other. And I prefer if it's spread out, so other teams are trying to line match against you and they're just like, dude, like we're running out of bullets here. They have so much depth, and I like the idea of that a little bit more than just stacking the living hell out of one line.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's, the curiosity in Leafs Nation, what the line configurations will look like. But that's the beauty of this market too, as somebody who played for this team, the fact that we're months away from puck drop, Rosie, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about line combinations. That's got to be unreal to you, eh?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You're in the weeds, you're in the depths. I was talking to people about the pod a little while ago, and it's like, well, if you're not really invested in the Leafs and want to really dig deep into the weeds of it all, then I doubt you're going to want to watch our show. But there's plenty of people who are that into it and they love it. So here we are.
Can tell you what, today's guest probably already indulged in the market. A bit of a difference from Carolina and even Vegas, who won the Stanley Cup a couple of years ago. We bring in Nicolas Wa, now of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Nick, thank you so much for doing this. How's the last couple of weeks been since everything went down?
Hey guys, it's been a little bit crazy, I guess. Obviously, I had also a wedding in the past couple of weeks, so with the trade and everything, try to moved places in Vegas. Just went back from there, making boxes, trying to get out of the house, and obviously finding a new place in Toronto. So it's been a bit crazy, but yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, the joys of a pro hockey player. What was your initial reaction when you found out you were part of the deal and the sign and trade with Mitch Marner that had you heading to Toronto?
Really surprised, to be honest. I wasn't expecting to be traded this summer. Came at a time, like I said, I wasn't expected, but really excited to be joining a team that's trying to win right now. That was the most important thing, but also Canadian team going to be a different experience and a team, a great organization, great city. So we're excited.
Yeah, that's the unique aspect of this whole thing, right? I mentioned you start your career in Carolina, you go to Vegas. Is that something that you embrace playing? Obviously, you're from Quebec, like you know a bit about big cities and big markets. Is that something you embrace playing for an original 16 like the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Yeah, it's going to be obviously a different challenge. Really excited to play, like I said, for a Canadian team, a bigger market. Obviously, there's going to be maybe a little bit of pressure, but I think that's a privilege as a player. When you have pressure, that means the expectations are high, and that's when you want to play, and that's when you want to play your best hockey. So yeah, really excited to be joining the Leafs.
Yeah, and you mentioned they're trying to win right now, and Craig Berube coming in last season with his first season is trying to establish a style of play that they think will lead to winning. Have you talked to Craig Berube, and what do you think's in his mind as far as the plans for this team this season?
Yeah, we've talked obviously. I know you look at the guys they brought. I think they want to play with a little more grit, I guess, in the playoffs, more physicality, and I think they did a really good job this year. Just watching it compared to the last couple of years, like I said previously, I think they were the biggest challenge to Florida in 7 games, and the guys were physical, and I think the team is going in the right direction. So I think we'll try to keep going that way.
So, Nick, you've lived the Stanley Cup grind, of course. What advice would you give to a team now like your Maple Leafs that are trying to finally get there?
I mean, the team is really close. I think keep pushing, especially in the summer like that. Try to get the most of every workout every time you go on the ice. But it's really crunch time. I think, like I said, pressure is a privilege. There's going to be ups and downs. Been there, obviously. Try not to be too high or too low, and but like I said, it doesn't take that much more. The team was really close last year, so a little bit more, and we'll believe it can happen.
Yeah, and as Nick mentioned, you've won the Stanley Cup, and you've been in the league long enough. You've been part of a lot of different teams. Is there anything that stands out in your mind that's different about that team that did win the cup? Something special that a team requires in order to get to that holy grail?
I think one of the most important thing is everybody understanding their role. Wherever you play in the lineup, and even the guys that are not playing scratch, eventually there's always injuries in playoffs, so they're going to find a way in the lineup. So always be ready. But every guy is just clicking, enjoying wherever you are in the lineup, whatever role you need to play. If it's PK or even the guys that play 8, 10 minutes, but got to be physical and win your minutes and be hard to play against. So I think it's one of the most important things for sure.
Nick, the one thing I admire about your game, like watching a lot of Vegas Golden Knights game the last couple of years, it seemed like every time somebody got hurt in the top six, namely a center, they called on you to shoulder that load, and you would. You'd play PP1, you'd chip in, you'd play with the big boys. Who do you credit the most in your career thus far for getting you to that next level from being, sort of a guy who's looking to push into the league to a mainstay in the league and a consistent contributor?
Oh, that's a tough question. There's so many people that have helped me along the way, so I'm not gonna name one guy in particular, but there's so many, like all the coaches I got from the minors to Carolina and agents, and so there's so many people. But yeah, I definitely see myself in a position where I can play a top six if needed. Can play in different roles. I think that's one of the particularity that I like. I can play in different situations, whether it's power play, PK, take big face off. So I embrace that part of the game for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned, the winning teams, having everyone understand their role. Is there anything different for people who aren't familiar with your game that you're going to bring to the table to try to do exactly that and help this team get over the finish line?
Yeah, I think, like I said, it's never going to be the most flashy guy out there. Obviously, like I wouldn't say I'm the fastest or get the best shot, but I think I can do it all out there. Especially come crunch time. I think I'm hard to play against. I like to protect pucks. I can play against the best lines on the other side. So and can play in every situation. So I think that's what I'm going to bring to the table.
Nick, this is a safe space. Were you a Habs fan growing up?
Actually, no, I was a Leafs fan. I said it until, which is pretty crazy for a guy from Quebec. I was a Matt Sundin fan, but I think I was about 11 or 12 when he moved to when he signed in Vancouver. So I switched. I was kind of mad a little bit about it. So I went back to Montreal at that point. But yeah, growing up when I was really younger, I was Toronto for sure.
Man, that's
Not
amazing
bad.
how it works out too, right? Where you look at sort of your career, where it's come, and now you start your Maple Leafs career, and it's going to happen against the Montreal Canadiens too, October 8th. I mean, you must be
Yeah.
jacked for that moment too, eh?
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'll recircle my calendar. I think for a lot of my friends and family as well. So it'll be a great moment for sure.
And once it's set in that you were going to the Toronto Maple Leafs, you start looking at the roster and envisioning who you might get a chance to play with. And did any name stick out to you on this current roster?
I mean, there's so many guys that I'm looking forward to play, but obviously Austin, just seeing everything he does out there. Really looking forward to see obviously Johnny Tavares, like everything he's done in the league for so many years. He's a leader. And he does everything a little bit out there as well. So like can play in every situation. So really looking forward to see those two. But there's so many good players on the team, so really excited.
So, Nick, I noticed you're wearing your customary number from junior, number 55. Is there any reason why you wore that number to begin with?
That's a big story. I mean, when I was in midget, I was underage. My first year, I was 14, so we kind of went by age for picking the number back then. So I was the youngest, so I ended up with 55, and kind of like got surprised a little bit. Didn't really like it at first, but by the time like I played 2 years with it, and then I got to juniors, and I picked it for 4 years. So then when I got to Vegas, obviously 55 was already picked, so I picked 10, and obviously couldn't get 10 in Toronto, so I went back with 55.
Hmm. And last one for me, I'm just curious, when you did sign, did you talk to anyone about what it's like to be a Maple Leaf, what it's like to be part of that team, live in that city when you are a Maple Leaf? Obviously, it'll be a little different than some of the markets that you've played in.
Yeah, I played with Stephen Lawrence a little bit in the minors, so talked a little bit to him. Obviously, Ryan Reeves, I played with him for a few years back in Vegas. I got fortunate enough. He was when I was coming back from Vegas. We met too at the airport. So we got to talk a little bit about all the guys, the city, a little bit everything. So it was nice to catch up with him and see what he thinks of Toronto, and he really enjoyed it. So it was good to know.
I love that Revo commandeering both sides of the sign and trade, because there was all that hoopla that came out about Mitch Marner, him showing him a place in Vegas. Great to see the other side of the perspective as well. Nick, we'll leave you with this one. January 15th, you had a chance to think about that day and that game returning to Vegas potentially?
Yeah, it's gonna be a big moment. Obviously, spent a lot of time there. Really good moments. Obviously, won the cup there. There's a lot of good players and friends in there, so it's gonna be emotional. But looking forward to it for sure.
Awesome, Nick. I hope the wedding went great. Congratulations on that. And congratulations now on being a Maple Leaf. Welcome to Toronto, and we'll see you in the fall, okay?
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for the invite today.
Anytime. Take care. That is Nicolas Wa here of the Toronto Maple Leafs by way of the Mitch Marner sign and trade. I love that aspect, a little commandeering there. We talked about Revo. Leafs Nation was all PO'd about him showing Marner the way to Vegas, but you return the favor now with Wa in Toronto, I guess. I like that.
Hey, the puppet master. I think Revo has got, I don't know, maybe GM aspirations or at least agent aspirations down the road. But yeah, there's Nicolas Wa. Stoic kid, don't get too high, don't get too low type of guy he comes off as. I think someone that has won before and checks a lot of boxes, this guy. I'm excited, man. We get to talk to these guys and get an idea where their head's at. And I usually leave those interviews feeling pretty good about things. Level-headed is what I would take away from that interview, as he seems to know what he's doing and doesn't get too worked up. And I think the Leafs could use a little bit of that.
Yeah, I think stoic is a great word to describe Nicolas Wa. But I said this at the time of the sign and trade. It's tough to replace who, but to bring in a guy like Nicolas Wa, who I watched again quite a bit play with Vegas, just a really, really dependable and reliable player. I said at the time, I think one of the most surprising players to come out of this offseason will be Nicolas Wa. I think Leafs fans will be a little shocked with what he brings to the table. Like, people feel, and I get it, you make a sign and trade, the value's not there clearly, and you bring in this afterthought, supposed afterthought in Nick Wa. But to your point, I think he checks a lot of boxes. I wouldn't be shocked in a hurry if he falls in the good graces of his head coach. Like, that's been a theme in this guy's career. The last 5 years, I believe, played 3 seasons under Bruce Cassidy, won a Stanley Cup. He's always that guy that can elevate. Like, God forbid something happens during the year where it's like John Tavares or Austin Matthews can't play. Nicolas Wa is going to be the first guy who's catapulted up the lineup. But the one thing I love about him, he elevates. He's able to elevate. He's able to be that guy who plays in the top 6, be a consistent contributor. So, like, versatility, I think, is so massive in this day and age. I think he brings that to the Maple Leafs.
I think so, man. And yeah, I mean, with a lot of talk about replacing those points that we lost in the offseason, and that's understandable. But again, I just keep coming back to the teams that win and what it looks like and how they roll their lines and what their identity kind of is, and they can fall back on. And I mean, these Leafs teams in the past, yeah, there's been lots of guys with big time points, but it just feels like there's holes in the lineup and you don't have those guys to elevate. And now, instead of asking guys to come up and play above their head, you get these guys that can plug these holes, and all of a sudden it starts to bump guys down to a role where they're much more comfortable with or much more capable with. And I just think when you got guys playing certain roles, say a third line guy where he's really comfortable and he could play second line a little bit, but that middle 6 guy, and you ask him to play a third line and play it well and play it hard, and you still log, solid minutes because we're rolling the lines, all of a sudden guys can really start to find their game and to like excel in that role that they're asked to play that is not over their head. And now we got a hockey team, and now we're rolling teams, and they don't have an answer for the way that we play shift in and shift out, whether it's guys on the first line or third line or fourth line. And all of a sudden, like, get our fourth line out there again. We got Lawton just buzzing with, who knows if it's like a Domi or something. Like, all of a sudden we got, these possibilities and these options. And instead of asking people to do way more than they're capable of, it's like, hey, we just need you to be really good at this. And I think that roster's starting to look that way, which is, again, like I mentioned, exciting.
Yeah, the one thing that really caught my eye from that interview with Nick Wa there was like the realization of like how you become a winner. And he's like, everybody knows their role and plays their role. And that's been a major takeaway from the Florida Panthers. Doesn't matter if you're on the fourth line or the first line or the top pairing or the bottom pairing or the backup goalie. Like, everybody knows what they're supposed to do on a game-by-game basis. And I think in general, throughout this offseason, Rosie, we've been talking about the depth and the lack of depth up front. Like, you can make that argument. The depth is there in between the pipes. It's there on the back end. And the missing ingredient was up front. And I think in a perfect world, like I was thinking about this the other day, let's say a Roslovic comes into the fold. Do they bring in an additional top 6 guy. That means Max Domi could very well start the year on the 4th line. Some people are saying, oh, well, his value suggests he should be a guy who's playing in the middle 6. So, like, what the hell are they doing? But if you have Max Domi on your 4th line, I think you're in pretty damn good standing, man.
And like, what if it was Domi, Lawton, Bobby McMahon? Like, there's a line that could do some damage, man, where, again, if you wrap your head around what your role is and what you're expected, and that's Craig Berube, who's going to really mold these guys and these lines and these potential players in their role to say, we need you to do this and we need you to do it really well and we need you to do it every night. And when it's something like what we just described, where it's like, we're not asking you to elevate into something that you can't handle. We're asking you to do something that you very well can handle. And if you do it night on night, we're going to be rolling you. And all of a sudden we got 4 lines we can roll. We got some grit. We got some toughness. And all you need is a bit of chemistry and some guys that are clicking together up top. And, you think of those games where the Leafs lose and say it's a playoff game. And it's like, well, shit, if Matthews doesn't have 2-1, like, who else is going to step up and elevate? Like, you need Bobby McMahon to get the 2-1 tonight. Like, it's just not really going to happen. And I feel like now that you look at this roster and I think the direction that Tree Living is going, it's like now we're starting to make this hockey team that's got the depth that you can, get into those tough games and be like, no, we don't back down. We don't look around and have all these holes. Our holes are plugged. We're moving forward. Everyone knows what they're doing. We know what our role is. We're just going to continue on because we have that foundation. And then the other team starts scrambling, saying, what the hell do we do? And this team just won't stop rolling them on us. And then you just tick off wins. And I ultimately, obviously, the plan is to win series with that mentality. And, now that this summer is starting to creep towards the start line, it's getting kind of exciting, really.
In support of Sick Kids, Eric Martin sends a couple of super chats. The first with his line combinations for the upcoming year, and then he'll tell you how he got there in the second super chat. He's got Nyes, Matthews, Matthias Michelli, Russ, Tavares, Nylander, Joshua, Wa, McMahon, Lorenz, Lawton, Yarncroke, Riley, Eric Carlson, McCabe, Tanev, OEL, and Benoit, which leads us to the second super chat. Trade Robertson, Wool, and Carlo for Rust and Carlson retained. Whew. Okay.
Ooh, baby. There's some blockbusters people are coming up with. It's
yeah.
It's always fun. And someone gets that in their head and they have it in their head all summer. But for all we know, that has been proposed somewhere down the line and laughed at and case closed, and who knows again what goes on in those GM rooms. But I do have this feeling that our general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs has been working the phones and trying to find a way to make a deal that makes this team better. And who that brings in and leaves out is kind of what we come every day and try to dissect and get excited about.
You're right. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Where do you stand on veteran presence and guys who have won before? I know it's almost cliche in professional sports, specifically in the NHL. Like, you need guys who have won before. Well, Nicolas Wa has won a Stanley Cup. Where do you side in that conversation? Because in the past, the Maple Leafs have brought in winners. Do they necessarily fit? No. But do you think you could ever have too many of those guys in a room?
No, never. It's not like, on one hand, you bring in guys that have won before. Does that mean you're just going to win again? No, but I talk about those games where the going gets tough. And sometimes the Leafs in the past have just been looking around kind of wide-eyed, like stunned, and no one quite seems to look like they know what to do next. And there's kind of some panic and some unfamiliarity. And, that's obviously frustrating for the fans to see. And I think that the more guys you have who have been down that road, because we watch the playoffs, we know how long and grindy they can see. You look back over the different series that a team will go through and they inevitably get to the final stage and win a cup. And it's like, man, there was a lot of ups and downs along that way. Man, that was a long journey. And that's just for the fans sitting there watching. When those players live that and go through it, you learn a lot. And you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about a team. You learn a lot about hockey. And the more players you have on your roster that have been there and done that, I mean, it's just going to benefit you. Does it mean you're going to win a cup now, or that it was wrong to bring that guy in if you don't win a cup? Like, let's get serious. There's only one team that does it at the end of a season. But, the more opportunity you give yourself to have a team that's able to get that monstrous task done, I think the better. And of course, bringing in a guy like him with his experiences is only going to benefit the Leafs.
So I was a guest on a podcast the other day and asked about expectation for the upcoming season. And I right away just shit on people who suggest the Maple Leafs are going to miss the Stanley Cup playoffs. But what's an expectation for you? Like, what's on the line? Is it harsh for me to say jobs are on the line if this team doesn't go far this season, like Craig Berube, Brad Treliving type jobs? Like, well, I wonder what the expectation is, and maybe we need to take a step back because of losing Mitch Marner. But where in your head suggests the Maple Leafs had a good and productive season, Rosie?
Oof. It's tough because, we keep talking about this roster and how it looks different. So what does different mean? Does it automatically, like, you snap your fingers and does that mean better? Or is it something that takes a while to formulate? Like, are these guys going to take a while to get their legs under them, to understand a system, to figure out who they are? Because before it was easy. It's like the core four needs to score a shitload of goals and then we should win the game. And it was kind of just like, let her all ride on that. And there was some success there for sure. But I think most people would agree that by the end of it, and what you got to pay these guys and the history of the league and who wins and how their roster is constructed, people are like, I think this needs to be a little bit more of a well-rounded roster. And I think that once you do that, it takes time to get the chemistry going and to figure out who you are as a team. Teams that win the cup, they have a pretty firm identity. They know who they are and they know how to access their best all the time. And it's what gets them to the cup. That might take some time to happen. And it's tough in Toronto, as we talk about every day. If they go through a skid or a performance, a period of time where their performance isn't that hard, there's going to be a lot of noise around them. I'm not thinking about firing people. I'm not thinking about whose job is on the line. Like, they just hired Craig Berube. He took control of a roster and had 1 year of it where, Wa just mentioned, they take the best team in the world to 7 games. So let's see what we can do. I think time's on their side. I don't want to start hearing the fire this guy, fire that guy bell if this season doesn't go perfect. I mean, you look at what free agencies are coming down the line after this season, and this team could get considerably better. So yeah, I don't like the idea of thinking down the road about whose job is on the line or anything. It's way too soon for that. Let's give these guys time to see what they can do.
For me, it's the process. I need to see them in a second round series where they just don't blow up. Like, if they play every game heavy and hard and it's like, shit, the other team's just better than them, I get that. But I think plain and simple, it's got to be a conference final. Like, they need to start making some headway in the Stanley Cup playoffs. There has to be some level of urgency and precedent set. It just seems like year after year, oh, they're done, we'll get them next year. Well, next thing you know, Austin, we just talked about at the top of the show, Sidney Crosby's 38. Next thing you know, Austin Matthews is going to be like 35 and not a conference final game, to his illustrious history. Like, I just think you need to take steps in the right direction. You have to instill some sort of belief in the fan base that you're actually relatively close to getting 8 more wins or 9 more wins. Of course, they went to Game 7 of round 2. A lot of it for me is like the process, and you can't make the determination right now, but I don't want them to take a step back the way people think is going to happen. I actually think they've taken a step forward, addition by subtraction, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I mean, no one can tell the future, but even the powers that be, but the big boys and the brass of the Toronto Maple Leafs, obviously they have thought that a different look is necessary. They went out and got this team that has a different look. How that's going to translate, nobody knows. But I think after watching enough series and playoff, successes and failures, I think they understand it needs to look more like this if we're going to get over that hump. And yeah, conference final is 100% the next step that I think would satisfy a lot of fans to say, wow, we're going in the right direction. It's somewhere they haven't been in a long time. They've, had teams that could have done it. This last team almost did it, but almost it doesn't really fly anymore in Toronto. And you need to start putting some rubber on pavement and make some headway. And 100%. A conference finals would be huge. But again, if they run up against a juggernaut like say the Panthers again in round 2 and they take them to 7 and it's a dogfight and they look good every night, and there's times where you think they could absolutely drop the ball and they don't, and they look good and they play with character and grit and they just come up short, I think people would be able to live with that. And I think it'd be silly for anyone to be calling for heads to roll if the season does go that way. But again, getting ahead of ourselves, we got to see what this new team looks like and how they perform together.
Yeah, and my rebuttal to that would be like a couple years back, the Florida Panthers were that team. Heads were about to roll. Who knows what happens if they lose to the Boston Bruins? Is Paul Maurice's job on the line? Potentially. I mean, last time I checked, they brought in Craig Berube to win a Stanley Cup. I love Craig Berube, but I think we've seen how quickly coaches lose their jobs in this league. It's something you have to discuss. I mean, I'm not advocating for it. I love him. I think he's a great coach. I think he's a perfect fit. You just want to see this nucleus trend in the right direction, because if you go at it again, sans Marner, and it's the same old story in the Stanley Cup playoffs, I think there are bigger conversations to have. But I will say naturally, I just think it's like taking that next step, playing meaningful games, important games, conference finals games. I love the fact that a multitude of people continue to bring up that the Maple Leafs are the closest team to beating the Florida Panthers. Like, not even the mighty Edmonton Oilers, who went to back-to-back Cup finals, were able to take the Florida Panthers to 7 games. The Maple Leafs were, but that just makes it hurt even more, remembering what happened in Game 5 and Game 7 on home ice. And we spent the majority of the season talking about home ice advantage and winning the Atlantic Division, and they shit themselves not once but twice at Scotiabank Arena. Crazy stuff.
Game 3 is what I go back to that really stings. Yeah. I mean, I remember I was in Medicine Hat, and I was driving to the hotel for my kids' lacrosse or hockey game, and I listened to the first 10, 15 minutes of the first period on the app in the vehicle, and then ran into the hotel, teed her up, and watched the rest. And I was like, oh my, like that was after we went up 2-rip when we had our viewing parties, game 1 and 2. And you know, I remember when we scored first and caught them completely off guard, and Bobber looked like he was a little out of sorts, and we're up 2-rip, and we're going, oh my God, like what if we can do this? What's stopping us? And then game 3 again, I zero in on that game, and we get up again, we score first, we're up 2 goals. Like, we are clearly in control of this series, and it's not even bloody close. And then there was the turning point, and I don't know if being that close makes you feel better, if it makes it sting more. Personally, sure, it stings, but the fact that they were there and that close is exciting. And now, why did it go south? And what are we missing to not let that happen again? And they're doing their best to address that as we speak.
Need that click moment too. Like, again, not to bring out the Panthers from a couple of years ago, down 3-1 in that series. They storm back, win the series. The rest is history. Why can't that be the Maple Leafs? We all know they're good enough. They need that moment where everything clicks, and then you notice and realize, like, shit, this team's onto something, and they're not going to lose, and they're going to keep going. They're going to bounce back. They're resilient. And honestly, I felt that way. Like, you know, we were present all series long for that Florida Panthers series. You started to feel that way, especially the way they were getting goals in the first round, like Simone Benoit and like Max Domi scoring winners. Like, that's when you really start to take your team to the next level, because you would assume, it's a big word in this market, that the big boys will pull their big boy pants up and do their thing and produce. And if you recall, like Willie Nylander, the talk of the town in round 1, Conn Smythe favorite at some point in time. You know, Marner was doing his thing, and Matthews was getting points, and Tavares, like, everything looks so good, but it's just how they finish off games and finish out games late in series, a big question mark moving forward. But it's about the process again, long story short, and we think that some of these additions will help that, namely a Nick Wa, who dropped by the podcast today.
Yeah, and, you know, we lost our starting stud goaltender, right, in that series too, which is, you know, you forget to take them to 7 again and to lose Stoli. Like, could that have been a difference maker? It's you look back and why are we doing this? I don't know. I guess it's kind of fun to see and to compare. But yeah, again, it's going to be fun to see where the team is at this year. There's going to be, it's not necessarily just the Marner lovers or anything, but there's going to be people that criticize this team and say, I'm sorry, but you didn't get better. And you mentioned that there's people that are like, I don't think the Leafs are going to make the playoffs this year, which I think is kind of silly. I don't buy it at all. Wild. Look at the goalies, look at the D, look at the stars, and then look who they added. Like, give your head a shake. It's a playoff team all day long. And I really just think it's going to come down to that chemistry. Like, if these guys can really put it together, and the names on the paper that the GM is in charge of putting down on that paper, it looks good. But once you get them in the room and start coaching them, sometimes it doesn't click, and sometimes it's a head scratcher on why doesn't this team work well together. It seems to check all the boxes. And, I think job one is done on putting names on paper that look good, that should be a good fit. Now the big step is the coach has got to get them playing together as a team. But if they do, and if they find those line combinations where it's like, oh man, do I ever just love Maccelli playing with so-and-so? Do I ever just love this bottom six because of XYZ? And they find that, and they get confident in themselves and realize what each individual guy has to do in order to have a line success, in order to have team success. All of a sudden, they could be off to the races. And I don't know if that's going to happen. I have a feeling that it very well could. I am optimistic about the season. So again, I just keep coming back to the word exciting. Like, I'm excited to see what these guys look like, man, because there has been a lot of change.
Definitely. And speaking of change, like my remark when somebody's like, oh, they might miss the playoffs. Well, it's like last time I checked, Matthews and Nylander are two bona fide stars in this league. If they can't make the playoffs with those two guys, I think you're in deep trouble. It's time now for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in the game. Use code NATION. That's NATION, NATION. Must be 19 or older. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit ConnexOntario.ca. No Blue Jays in action. What a beatdown they laid on the Rockies in that 3-game set. Just smoked them. But I'm going to play the Paul Skeens. Pardon me?
Did we hit the over in our bet from Tuesday?
We did. Yeah, I think it was a 15. I don't know. I think they got 13 runs in that game total. So I think we hit it. But I'm playing Paul Skeens strikeouts tonight. They're home to the Cincinnati Reds. If you're not a big baseball fan, watch Paul Skeens pitch, man. It is worth the price of admission. That dude's a stud.
Does he have a funky release, or does he just really good?
He throws gas. Like he is just polarizing, man. Yeah, and he's not going to be with Pittsburgh forever. I can't wait till the day he gets traded to a relevant market.
Interesting. I like it. I'm looking at the FedEx St. Jude Classic. We're in the playoffs here. The race for the FedEx Cup. Scotty Scheffler, if you don't sprinkle some dollars on him, like, he's an absolute mutant from another dimension. It's crazy what he's doing. But if you want to go down a little ways, you see Ludwig Oberg. I like that guy. He's a stud, and plus 3,300. Sprinkle him too, and I have a feeling that'll be some good watching.
I love it. Dave Bem writes in, what's your schedule for next week, boys? Well, Dave, happy you asked that. We got a Tuesday and a Wednesday edition. So back-to-back, Zach Phillips will make another appearance on the podcast coming up on Wednesday, filling in for Rosie. And as mentioned, the next edition of this podcast will be Tuesday, where the captain of the Ottawa Senators, Brady Tkachuk's going to stop by for a love fest with Rosie.
Who Daddy, or are we just going to be all? I like that guy. It's no secret, but we're looking forward to that too. I will be here Tuesday. We can't avoid doing a show on Wednesday. I have to get my wife to the airport. So that's life. At least I'm here for the big one. And that's a pretty good get there, Nikolai. Hats off to you for the captain of the Sens and Brady Tkachuk.
Hey, Wednesday's a big one too. Zach Phillips and Nick Alberga special. That's going to be a good one. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, that's what's coming. Moving forward here in Leafs Morning Take for this month of August as we get closer and closer to puck drop. So great stuff, Rosie. Have a great weekend. We'll talk on Tuesday. Okay.
You too. Take care. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Take care. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Once again, thank you to today's guest, Nicolas Wa, now of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Thank you to producer Vic. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. And again, we'll talk on Tuesday. Take care, everybody. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.